What is up, my friends? You are all very welcome along to tonight's transfer news roundup. It is another day of frustration. 10 weeks to the day since the transfer window opened. We still have 3 players signed after 8 departed, and the clock is ticking. So, over the next 8 to 10 minutes, I'm going to give you my thoughts on where we are, fill you guys in on the latest on Andre, and a couple of other bits and pieces. But I want to know your thoughts in the comment section. Please do drop a like in the video, and of course, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, please do. So look, let me start off with more bad news, because that's where this is going. Over the past 24 hours, there's been lots of talk to say that Liverpool and Andre have agreed personal terms. That's brilliant. Except for one really glaring problem that came to light over the past few hours. You know the €40 million release clause that we were all told about Andre for the past few weeks? You know that one? Yeah, apparently that's not correct. Apparently Jacques Talbot has come out tonight and said it's actually an $80 million release clause or €80 million release clause. One of those two figures. Meaning, one thing, that FSG aren't going to pay it. So that's why we see Liverpool nickel and diming around with a potential €30 million offer, because we know they're not going to get anywhere close to the buyout clause. And they would have known that for a while. So again, I'm going to ask, who's planning this? Who's driving this window? And how are we here? 10 weeks to the day since the window opened. 10 weeks. In that time, we signed 2 players very quickly, had our pants pulled down and were a laughing stock in the window when Chelsea signed 2 midfielders we were going for. And we'd also seen today that there was a list of 3 players that were earmarked by Jurgen Klopp to be the defensive midfield signing. Number 1, Caicedo. Number 2, Lavia. Number 3, Boubacar Kamara of Aston Villa. So I think it's fair of us to ask, if we didn't get Caicedo and Lavia, why didn't we move on to number 3 on that list very quickly? And how did we end up going to Germany to get Endo? Now, I have nothing against the signing of Endo in its own right. I think that could be an astute piece of business, and I think that if we get another midfielder and a defender in, that in itself will be absolutely fine and acceptable. But if it's a case of FSG once again taking the cheap option, and that's why I feel we're being linked with Gravenberch, by the way. It's not that Klopp really feels he's the best player he can get in that position. It's because he's potentially going to be cheap. And that is always the way. This is the FSG way. Bait and switch yet again. We know that John W. Henry has had £110 million to spend. So if you are really going to spend it, why aren't we seeing it being spent now? And this is another glaring question that I'd like the media to potentially answer. If FSG and our recruitment team and Jurgen Klopp and everybody else at our football club are so clever as we're led to believe, how are we staring down the barrel of another embarrassing transfer window where at the end of it, we're running around trying to put fires out and trying to sign 2 players in a week? It's not a good look, and it's not the structure of a well planned out window. It is embarrassing. They will hide behind things like Fabinho and Henderson's sale. But the reality here is that somebody has really messed up again. And we need to know where our ire, where our frustration should be aimed. Who takes responsibility for this? I'm of the train of thought that it stops with the owners. If the owners aren't happy with the chain of command underneath them, then they need to remove the people who are a problem. But if they refuse to do that and allow us to go through window after window where we're a laughing stock, then the buck stops with them. Jurgen Klopp has a lot of freedom at Liverpool Football Club. You've heard Jamie Carragher and other people in the media speak about how much influence he has the club from top to bottom. So isn't it fair to say that he has to be part of this collective failure? He can't laugh at us fans and relate us to kids at Christmas who are moaning because they're not getting a Ferrari, when a year later we still haven't had the midfield rebuild that we had a year to plan and 10 weeks to operate in during this summer window. So it's time for people to start putting their hands up and taking responsibility, because we can't get through another season with the squad that we have. It isn't deep enough, it isn't strong enough, and there isn't enough competition for places. Right now, Virgil van Dijk, Mohamed Salah, and probably 1 or 2 more in that team know that there's nobody there to compete for their place. Nobody to push them. If Verge gets injured, the season's out the window. That's how simple it is. Matip and Joe Gomez will not come in and fill that void. They'll do it for a few weeks. One of them will get injured and the other one will just be horrendously bad, as we've seen in previous history. Jurgen has said all summer he wants a defender. He keeps saying it. So my question is, why isn't he going after one? If you think it's going to be Hincapié, well, bad news there. You know the 45 million euro that we've been speaking about for the past 2 weeks because that's the number that's been in the media? Well, apparently Leverkusen wants £60 million for Hincapié if he's to leave in this window. So that will rule us out then because we know John ain't going to spend that much money on a backup left-sided centre-back. So again, I'm going to ask, how are we in this position yet again? Look back at our recent transfer window history. Last year, all through the window, we were wrong, Klopp was right, they didn't need any midfield signings. Then all of a sudden there was a realisation at the end of the window that we'd a load of sick note or old players in midfield and that we needed to bring somebody in. What did we end up with? Arthur Melo. Didn't play any games. Absolute waste of money and time. Cast your mind back a bit further. Us, the media and other fans screaming for centre-backs. We need centre-back cover. What happened? We had injuries and we ended up with Ozan Kabak and Ben Davies. But somehow we pulled it off that time and managed to scrape our way back into the Champions League. So I don't know about anybody else and I don't claim to speak for anybody else. But I know that I don't want to look back at Jurgen Klopp's time at Liverpool and think about what might have been. And that is what is going to happen. If Jurgen Klopp doesn't have a good season this season, for the first time ever in his tenure at our football club, fans can rightfully ask, is it time for the manager to go? He had a blip last season, and he was partly responsible for that. Make no mistake. It was his strong will, his pig-headedness of not wanting to bring in a midfielder because we couldn't replace the attributes of Oxlade-Chamberlain, of James Milner, of Naby Keita, of Jordan Henderson. We couldn't do it. Nobody was available on the market. Bellingham we ran away from like scared children before he even made his decision. And now he's tearing it up at Real Madrid, scored in their opening 2 games. Once again, we're looking like a laughing stock. And the common denominator in all of this is FSG's false promises. FSG's manipulating of the media. And the media having no backbone to call them out. Stop telling us they're geniuses. They are not. They are charlatans, they are spoofers, they are snake oil salesmen who have no more interest in Liverpool winning than I do about growing a head of hair with a big perm. It's not going to happen. It's pathetic. And we've all been hoodwinked again. How do you go from 2 weeks ago today to going and putting in a potential British transfer record for Moise Caicedo, only for to go out and spend 16.5 million on the defensive midfielder and then go quiet? Go quiet? What are we doing? Somebody needs to put their hands up here and say, lads, we've made a mess of it again. And I don't know who is to blame. I don't, because I'm not privy to this inside information, nor are you. But you have every right to expect that a once-in-a-generation manager would be back to the hilt with every single possible ounce and pound and cent that can be given to him. But he isn't being. And you can't blame the wages anymore, John. You can't tell us that the wage bill is so high because you cleared about £1 million a week off that wage bill. So again, I'm going to ask, how are we here? And how are we being fooled once again by a set of owners who have no ambition to win? Look at the Red Sox, look at us, and look at other clubs that they own. There is a similar pattern. Initial joy, initial success, and then nothing. Frustration. And that's where we're at. But we're supposed to sit here and hear them say that they're in expansion mode, that they want to buy more clubs. Look after the ones that you have. Jurgen Klopp should be absolutely punching holes in walls right now because he's been shafted. And if he hasn't been shafted, then he's part of the problem. So right now, again, 10 weeks into the window, and we're a laughing stock who need 2 signings just to get back to level pegging from last year, while everybody else has strengthened and pushed on. It isn't good enough. It isn't befitting of Liverpool Football Club, and you've every right to be annoyed about it. So don't let others tell you don't. Talk to you guys soon. Much love. Bye-bye.